It's the illusion of freedom. If you have to go to work and if you don't, you die, you're not free.
Okay, yes. Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is Alan, this is My Life in Taiwan, and this is...
Xiaofei!
Xiaofei!
Did you do the intro like you did last time?
Probably not, that was... I'll just use the same one.
Xiaofei!
As you've probably already guessed from the title, this is, I think, my first video on the recent events. I'm not sure if we're allowed to say the word.
Yeah, you can say it. So there's obviously the biggest news in the world today is that there is a global pandemic that's a contagion that's racing across the world and affecting lots of people, and different countries are responding to this differently.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to be talking about today, is how the different countries, the countries that we come from and some other countries around the world, how they've dealt with the situation, especially compared to Taiwan, because I think it's no secret around the world that Taiwan has been lauded as a hero in some videos.
Taiwan, who were exemplary, saw the problem and really got the testing, community-wide testing, done very well.
In Taiwan, our lifestyle hasn't actually changed that much. The ability for us to go around and casually enjoy our lives is really dependent on the ability of doctors and nurses and the people in CECC who even at this stage are still completely swamped with work and completely stressed out and working overtime, and all of the police officers who are checking in on people in quarantine, they're doing that twice a day. I really want to thank all of them for basically producing this lifestyle for us.
Totally agree.
And so yeah, good job.
Round of applause to those guys, that's really well done. And just to give you some idea of the figures, Taiwan at the moment I think is something like 430 cases in total since the thing started, and
and most of those are indigenous. Imported cases.
But basically, Taiwan has just aced the job. The thing that Taiwan did the best was just acting early.
The CECC was founded on December 31st last year, and that's about 3 months before sort of this lockdown action, state of emergencies were declared by countries like the United States or England. So that really is reacting to a potential epidemic and taking steps to prevent an epidemic instead of waiting until there already is an epidemic and then taking steps to try to contain that epidemic.
Do you think there's some validity to the statement that because Taiwan had the SARS outbreak in 2003, I think? Do you think that helped?
One immediately tangible result of that was after that happened in Taiwan, they established a law that required all hospitals to have a minimum of 30 days worth of PPEs and equipment to prepare for a similar epidemic. If you look at all of the countries that dealt with SARS epidemic in the early 2000s, all of these countries are countries that people are used to wearing masks, and masks are not viewed upon as some kind of a social stigma. The country had the ability to produce and distribute masks, and two is that people were willing to wear them and took it seriously, and in some cases already had the habit of wearing masks when they were sick. So all of the mask-wearing countries in Asia are doing much better than the non-mask-wearing countries.
And that's what I really want to focus the video on, is more towards how our countries have kind of failed. Would you say it's a failure of handling the situation?
It is a colossal failure. Sort of, I feel like the U.S. government policy is never let a good crisis go to waste. So I feel like from the perspective of human health and well-being, it was a colossal failure. From the perspective of sort of, the ability for them to pass unpopular legislation that, requires a crisis to pass, they were very successful. So it just depends on how evil you are. If you're just a complete, total shit, then it was very successful. If you're, an empathetic human being, then it was a colossal failure.
I'm not too sure of the politics of my country in the UK, but what I am very aware of is how my family reacted to the virus, and I think my family took it very seriously. My dad's got some kind of lung condition, COPD.
Did their seriousness of their response have anything to do with you telling them it was serious?
Quite the opposite, actually, because they were phoning me, and when I got the first phone call from them about after lockdown, I think UK went into lockdown on March 23rd or 24th, and I got a phone call from my mum and dad about a week later, and I could see fear in their eyes. So I was actually shocked to see that, because I'd been in Taiwan and it was kind of like still well under control here. But I think the majority of people in England took it relatively seriously and followed the government's advice.
But the government advice was very late.
Well, it was late in coming. I think that's why we're in the situation we're in now. But once it came as a solid lockdown, then most people took it seriously. But there's always the people that take advantage of a situation like this and think, oh, we don't have to go to work tomorrow. Let's go to the pub. Let's go to the park. Let's have a barbecue. And there was evidence on the news of like parks being full, and I think you mentioned earlier about the only way that a lockdown can work is if everybody follows it, and that wasn't happening in the UK.
It definitely requires group participation, which is one thing that Taiwan is very, very disciplined on. I think that people see it as their social responsibility to prevent the spread of the epidemic.
Definitely. I feel like the reason Taiwan has been so successful compared to the US and the UK is when it comes to the society as a whole, Taiwanese people just do what's best for everybody. They don't really have that selfish gene. I feel like the government and the people did the right thing together. Whereas in England, it's more of like, the government are telling me I've got to stay at home? Like, how dare they? There's some people that have that feeling.
Americans will do the right thing eventually, just after they've exhausted all possible options. Also, America economically is a very different situation than most of Europe and Taiwan. We don't have Jianbao, the National Health Service. We don't have a lot of social services that will keep people afloat during a crisis. So regardless of a crisis situation and a lockdown, and lockdown in the US, by the way, in many cases was sort of what they call a voluntary lockdown. Which is a suggestion,
and it was done state by state, which
we
again
don't
caused problems. Right?
We don't have a nationwide policy. We have individual state policies. Regardless of what the recommendation is from the government, the fact remains that in the United States, a lot of people are financially insecure, and in some cases, food insecure. So even if the rule is you have to work from home, if your job doesn't allow you to work from home, you still need to go to work because you still need to pay rent and you still need to feed your family.
Yeah, those blue-collar jobs are not easily done from home, right?
Yes, unless you're working exclusively on a computer in an office, your job cannot be done from home. But because America is lacking the sort of social safety nets that a lot of other countries have, the lockdown will be mostly ineffectual. It wasn't completely ineffectual. It actually did plateau the amount of daily new cases. So now in the U.S. it's something like 20 and 30,000 new cases a day.
Well, I just can't believe that you've just told me there's 20 to 30,000 new cases every day in the U.S.
Yes.
And they're talking about the possibility of lifting lockdown or opening it up. I think, is it not insane that the American people value their freedom more than they value their lives?
Yeah, but it's the illusion of freedom, right? Like if you have to go to work and if you don't, you die. You're not free. The beginning of the pandemic in the U.S., a huge economic pressure on a lot of people and also a lot of companies. And so what the government immediately did is they gave out trillions of dollars, and these trillions of dollars they weren't equally distributed across the population. They didn't really go to the people who need it. They went to a lot of these sort of equity firms, banks, and large companies. And so what they're doing is they're using that money to buy up distressed assets at pennies on the dollar.
In summary, the coronavirus will make the rich people richer and the poor people poorer.
Yeah, it's already happened. Yeah, definitely.
It's so sick, right? It's sick that can happen.
Yeah, the long-term result of the coronavirus, let's say after there's a vaccine, it will be a drastic increase in inequality.
And okay, if we kind of bring that back to the topic of the video.
Yep.
Do you think do you predict will be Taiwan's sort of future? Is Taiwan going to come out of this pretty much as they went into it, the same? They've protected themselves economically?
Taiwan has protected itself economically, but it hasn't, its customers haven't. So, for an industrialized export economy, it's basically lost a lot of customers.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So how this will affect Taiwan in the really the long term is one is probably negatively.
Yeah.
but negatively at a rate that's much less than other countries are being affected. So
Unemployment, things like that have been like in England. Unemployment is scary. America, I'm not too sure, but
in America, it's ridiculous. We're talking 30 million people. It could go up to as much as 40% of the population.
yeah.
And because our health insurance is tied to our job, it means that once you're unemployed, you also lose your health insurance.
So let me give you I think we'll kind of come towards an end, but let me give you one question. If you were in hindsight, and hindsight is a wonderful thing, what do you think the Western countries should have done that Taiwan did do? Which sort of actions that Taiwan did?
Oh, it's no question. Had Western countries on December 31st instituted the same policies as Taiwan,
Yeah.
the disease would have been extinct. It would have never left China, and that just would have been the end. Even in the very, very immediate past, they didn't think it would affect them, and they just don't give a shit about everybody else.
Yeah.
And I think that they saw it as an opportunity to get rich, an opportunity to pass a lot of money to their rich friends, an opportunity to do insider trading in the stock market, and I don't think that either of our governments really thought that disease just goes away if you ignore it.
That's like an Asian
Yeah.
thing. It's an Asian thing that happens over in the East. It doesn't come to us. And then it bit our Prime Minister squarely on his ass when he almost died from the bloody thing.
Minister Boris Johnson says he has tested positive for coronavirus.
So people ask me, why do you live in Taiwan? And a large part of that is how an individual in society views their place, their role in the culture and in the community. Yeah.
I think what you said there absolutely sums up my feeling. I often find it difficult to express to people, why do you choose to live in Taiwan? But unfortunately, this event has had to happen, but it's shown the world how Taiwan does look after each other, basically, and they work together for the common goal.
When you ask an American why they're proud to be, like, what do they love about America? Why are they proud about it? They'll be like, freedom, we have freedom. But when you ask a Taiwanese person, you're like, what do you love about Taiwan? Why are you proud of Taiwan? They're like, oh, well, we have Jianbao. So it's like,
If you choose one or the other, I think I'll choose the health insurance.
Not yet. True, obviously, yeah.
Yeah.
But also, it's like Jianbao is a concrete, real thing,
Yeah.
whereas freedom is sort of this abstract idea,
Concept, yeah.
a concept. And when you measure it, you find out you don't, because
Something like this happens.
if you get sick, you can't go to the doctor unless you're rich. You don't have the freedom to a life free of disease.
Okay, well there you go. There's another Alan and Xiaofei chat. I'm not sure how closely we stuck to the topic, but some very interesting points in there.
We had a topic?
If you agree with any of the points, disagree, by all means, the comment section is there for you. Don't forget to go check out Xiaofei's channel. I think that's time to say goodbye. Thanks so much for watching, guys.
Bye, guys.
As for now, and as always, I'll see you next time in My Life in Taiwan.
And I live here too. Yeah.
Peace.